Today for New Music Monday, we're going to check out the highly anticipated brand new album from Daft Punk, and it's called Random Access Memories. This is the first formal full-length album from Daft Punk in nearly 8 years, and it may very well be the most highly hyped album of the entire decade. When you look back at it, they've been talking about this album and pumping it up since 2010 at the very latest, because that's when you see the first rumblings of who they were collaborating with for this record, and the list grew very quickly. So let me get this out of the way from the start. Nothing could live up to the hype they've put around this album. Nothing. This is not the greatest album in history. This is not an earth-shattering musical revelation. This is not the beginning of some new musical revolution. It just isn't. But that doesn't mean it's not a good record, because it is. Very good, in fact. You just need to step back, put the hype to the side, and listen to this record for what it is. The big thing with this record is that the duo said early on they were going for that late 70s, early 80s retro disco kind of sound, and they quickly enlisted a long list of top-notch collaborators, including Pharrell Williams, Chili Gonzalez, Giorgio Moroder, and of course, Niles Rodgers. The goal of the group's focus is very clear from the opening notes of this record, as it has this almost sci-fi lead-in that sets the high point for energy before it really settles in to this amazingly catchy, softer, disco-esque tone. And yet this old-school sounding groove quickly has a modern sting to it in a very good way. The album quickly settles into a parade of deeply engrossing, smooth yet soft musical textures, each bringing a unique head-bobbing groove with them. For the most part, this album is far from those louder, more aggressive dance club anthems that most people know them for. But these songs are easily just as good, if not more so, and definitely as addictive. On this album, Daft Punk get very mellow and ambient at times, yet they never lose the energy or the grip on these songs, as they manage to balance these moods perfectly on almost every track. The other big shift here is that unlike a majority of their earlier work, this song is based mostly on live instrumentation, and things like drum machines and synthesizers are used in moderation, and even when they are, they're mostly vintage instruments, and they really help to give the album a far more authentic feel throughout. There's plenty of great slinky, sliding vocoder vocals all across the album, and again, they work great, giving more atmosphere to these songs and making them, for lack of a better word, cool. The variety in instrumentation on this album really needs to be praised as loud as possible, as they show that there's really no limit to what instruments you can fit into a particular style while never actually leaving that style. From deep grooves created by the aforementioned instruments to perfectly placed string sections, the creativity just never seems to stop on this album. But it's when they go for the more danceable tracks that Daft Punk really starts to buck the trends, as they really start to show that there was something very modern about that 70s disco style that so many people like to look down on. And songs of that disco and soul era can still really get you moving when they're done right. There are one or two songs here that for a moment here and there do become a bit too repetitive and you can skip them after a few listenings, but it only accounts for maybe 5 of the 70+ minutes on this record. And they aren't bad as an entire song, it's just a few minutes here and there. Unfortunately, the song that's the most guilty of this sits right in the center of the record, so it makes it stand out a little bit more. But honestly, you can really let this slide given the rest of the record. I will freely admit that I am far from a big-time Daft Punk fan. I enjoy their homework album maybe once or twice a year, but that's really about it. And while I knew this album was coming out, I wasn't counting down the days for it or waiting at midnight for the stream to start. But with that being said, you can't deny that this is a very enjoyable album for anybody that likes music. It's wonderfully unique and creative, and it crosses countless musical boundaries. And to tell you the truth, because of this, I can't really think of any musical fan base that can't find some part of it that they'll like. So in the end, weighing everything on the buy it or borrow it, the new record from Daft Punk is a solid buy it. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you dug it. If you did, go ahead and click subscribe, leave a comment, click like, whatever you want to do. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook right here, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow.